Hello there, Majin Murphy here, and welcome back to What Remains of Edith Finch. The last episode was really sad. A lot of children are starting to die, which is very, very sad. But we're going to continue on with the game. This is very deep, it's very sad, and I love everything this game has going on, so. A rock climbing wall.
My mom moved up to the loft after her brothers died.
Keep in mind this lady's 22 weeks pregnant.
At the time, it was as far away as she could get. She spent a summer building houses in Calcutta, where she met my dad, Sanjay.
Fly to India.
Religion was another thing my mom never talked about, but I think it helped her a lot after her dad died.
Do I have to just go down? Oh no.
My mom moved to India a week after graduation and got a job teaching English. Lewis was born a year later.
Okay, down is not an option.
When my dad died, I don't think Mom knew where else to go. I'm sure Edie was happy to have her back. The house had to get a little bigger, but Edie was used to that. And for a while, things were good. Almost normal.
Homeschool?
But it didn't last. The beginning of the end was Milton's 10th birthday, when Edie gave him a castle.
Castle, huh? $1992 to... I don't know.
I think Edie was happy to finally have another painter in the family. Milton Finch in The Magic Paintbrush.
That's what he was making downstairs. Or down the level below.
I was 4 when Milton disappeared.
She was on there 2003.
Mom spent months searching for my brother. Then she sealed the doors. Whatever Milton had found in the house, Mom didn't want it getting out.
go upstairs.
Mom definitely blamed Edie, but I think Lewis blamed himself. After he graduated, he just spent more and more time in his room. Until Mom got him a job at the cannery. Everyone always told me to stay out of Lewis's room. Except Lewis.
Like I've been looking at the peepholes this whole time. This little hookah set up here.
Lewis's room smelled very, very familiar. That part of him lived on. Lewis and I spent a lot of time playing games together, but he was surprisingly bad at them. He died a lot.
Dear Mrs. Finch, as Lewis's psychiatrist, I can understand your desire for an explanation. As I see it, the trouble began in January, shortly after we convinced your son to seek treatment for substance abuse. Newly sober, I believe Lewis first noticed the monotony of his daily life.
Okay.
He kept working at the cannery, but he withdrew part of himself. In our sessions, I saw the same behavior.
Better be getting paid for this.
His mind began to wander.
Oh.
I asked him to describe it. He said he started small, imagining a labyrinth. He'd feel his way about.
Okay.
Then something moved. Bats.
Bats?
And toads. And things that have not names.
It's hard to do both, not gonna lie.
He knew it was all in his head. But he took it very seriously. I had hoped he'd find himself. But he found something more. I worried about him then. Daydreaming at the cannery. I spoke with his boss. But he said Lewis had become a model employee. Methodical, tireless, focused. Like a whole new Lewis. So I let him go on. I even encouraged him. It seemed very promising at first. He told me he'd made a new friend. On the edge of a city he named Lewis Topia. He built the city up slowly, brick by brick. Then he made musicians.
What?
And songs for them to play. He talked about starting a band.
Oh. Well, they wanted me to go in there for a second.
And he was always humming something. Every day his imagination grew stronger. no longer spoke at the cannery, but his chopping was as reliable as ever. Then one day it struck him that all the cheering crowds, even the stones under his feet, were all in his imagination, so he could do whatever he wished. He held an election for mayor. And he won. They begged him to stay, but his mind was already wandering. It became a game for him.
Oh. Man, this is there's a lot going on. I'm the physically cutting
Conquer a
the heads
city,
off the
then
fish.
immediately push on. New Louisville. St. Louis.
St. Louis. It's funny.
He started drifting away from our reality.
Gonna crash into the dock. Or the dock, the side.
Minneapolis. Until one day he forgot to go home from the cannery.
Minneapolis.
Even as his mother pleaded with him, part of Louis kept sailing on.
A lot of fish heads in that thing. What's going on there? Alright.
In Louisburg, he heard rumors of a
Handsome queen?
handsome queen.
Did I get to pick if he was gonna be gay or not?
The queen was on her own quest for
Let's go radiant rainbows. I'm not really feeling sinister
radiant
serpents.
rainbows. He followed the sound of her
Silver harp.
silver harp.
Still freaking.
His chase led him to a
Interesting.
golden palace east of the sun and west of the moon.
We're gonna hit this. We're gonna board. We're boarding.
Even then, his logic remained sound.
Oh my god! I'm still chopping the heads off.
He knew the world was all in his imagination. But he was so proud of having created it.
Come on.
In his own eyes, he'd become something greater than a king.
Was he a god?
For someone who'd never known success in the real world, I think it was overwhelming. And then it struck him that the real Louis was not the one chopping salmon, but the one climbing the steps of a golden palace. My imagination is as real as my body, he told me. It was hard to argue with him.
Probably his locker.
He began to forget the world we know. I think it pained him to remember Louis, the cannery worker. He began to despise the man with a royal contempt. I still thought I could save him. Even after he said he was being crowned king over all the lands of wonder.
Does he kill himself?
The palace would be packed with his companions.
The lack of faces creeped me out. Thank you, thank you. Ha, hello! Hello, my good fellows.
Calico, who'd insisted on inviting him.
Thank you. Thank you. Enjoy your freedom. Increase taxes. Yes. Yes. My queen. My lady.
His queen waited, holding his crown.
I don't know if I want the crown. There's a
There
guillotine
was
in
only
front of
one
it.
thing left to do.
See, this is one of those dilemmas. Like, I get to be king, but then you get beheaded. I wouldn't do it. But this guy is going to.
His head.
Oh, yes, my lady.
And the rest I think you know. Mrs. Finch, your son was a kind man who will be missed by all of us who knew him.
My brother was really cool. I wish you could have met him.
I didn't want to go in there. Oh. Is there something else I have to do? Or was I missing something? Because I didn't mean to come back in here, but it seemed like it wanted me to. Oh, I did.
On the way back from Lewis's funeral, my mom told me to start packing. She waited until the day before we left to tell Edie. I'm not sure if she wanted to make it easier or harder. I wish we'd stayed. But I understand why we left. My mom ended up leaving everything behind. What happened that night had been coming for a long time.
What happened that night?
Maybe I should have come sooner.
I guess that's this girl's old room up here.
But it had to end one way or another. All that's left now is to tell you about that last night. That whole last day, Edie just watched us pack and didn't say a word. until supper when she raised her glass and said,
"To our final night together, and all our final nights apart."
Grandma, you know what I said about alcohol. Some of your medications are very
Edith,
specific.
I left a present for you in the hallway. Why don't you go open it? The grown-ups have to argue now.
I'm sorry, you're right. We're all leaving tomorrow. Let's just enjoy our last...
I'm not leaving.
Edith, you're excused.
The power had been shut off that morning, but Edie always had plenty of candles. When my mom sealed the library, I don't think she knew about the other entrance. Or that Edie had a key to it.
That thing you're afraid of isn't going to end when you leave the house. Edith has a right to know these stories.
My children are dead because of your stories. I think it's best if Edith and I leave tonight. We'll have the nursing home send a van for you in the morning, okay?
Dear Edith, there's so many stories I wish I could tell you, but there's only time for one. This is about what happened on the night you were born. That night, the tide went way, way out.
I'm going to the house, aren't I?
It was the first and last time I ever saw the old house aground. There'd been an earthquake out in the middle of the ocean. They called it the lowest tide in 1,000 years. God, it smelled awful. You know, I've seen that house every day of my life. But I never thought I'd go back to it. When the fog rolled in, I lost my way. I got turned around.
Which is impossible, because I literally just kept walking in a straight line.
For a while, I wondered. I started seeing things. Things I'd forgotten had ever existed.
Like what?
But when I saw them, they felt like old friends.
What are you
That
talking about?
night, a lot of things came back to me. Or maybe I came back to them. Things I can't explain, but that I need you to try and...
Edith, what are you doing in here?
It's mine.
Edith!
Mom, you're gonna rip it. Let go.
They're literally gonna rip this, aren't they?
I kicked and screamed, but Mom dragged me to the car. I never saw Great-Grandma Edie again. The next morning, the van came to pick her up, but she was already gone. After that, we moved around a lot. We both tried to make the best of it. A few years went by. My mom didn't like to talk about it. But she started getting sick a lot. The rest happened pretty quickly. She got better for a while, and then she didn't. And then I was alone. The last Finch left alive. Until I found out about you. I'm still not sure what to tell you about all this. If we lived forever, maybe we'd have time to understand things. But as it is, I think the best we can do is try to open our eyes. And appreciate how strange and brief all of this is. This journal was supposed to be for you. But now I hope you'll never see it. I just want to meet you and tell you all these stories myself. But I guess if you're reading this now, things didn't work out that way.
She dies on the table.
This is where your story begins. I'm sorry I won't be there to see it. It's a lot to ask, but I don't want you to be sad that I'm gone. I want you to be amazed that any of us ever had a chance to be here at all. Good luck.
Wow. Well, that was an incredibly moving story. Why is it saving? We're just going to keep letting the credits roll here. Maybe there's something at the end, but yeah, that was a very moving story that, I mean, there wasn't a lot of, like, gameplay worth. Obviously, just, like, pressing the trigger button and then pushing a door open or stuff like that, but there wasn't a lot to it other than just walking around and experiencing the game, which was phenomenal. Like, I loved this game. I can't believe this was a free game of the month. It would probably be a game that not a lot of people enjoy, because it's just predominantly story. There's not a lot of gameplay per se. So, I mean, it is what it is. I probably could have played this all in 1 or 2 parts, but obviously I broke it down into several to get the full effect of it. I mean, but the story was funny at points, sad at others, you know, uplifting, and then downlifting. So I think it's interesting here that all of the credits are done with child pictures of the childhood. There's Bigfoot. I wonder where they came up with the idea for this. I mean, I figured it wasn't based off like a true story, but I don't know. It'd be just a weird idea, I suppose. The game looked wonderful too. All these people that did the... Man. The only thing that was weird about the voiceover was the comic book. It was just really strange. The boyfriend talking to Barbara, just the way he was wording stuff. It's like, I just don't feel it. Like, it just felt very fake. But other than that, I mean, the voice acting was incredible, especially the main actor there, and actress, I mean, and just the artwork. What are these, the people, the voices? Before it had a title next to everybody. Oh, the playtesters didn't get a picture, they just got names. That guy's name is Dick Hogg. That's the one name that just stood out to me above all others. My Alvanos. Speedy Crisps. The end. The replay as story option is now available. Select Edith to play from the beginning. I'm gonna pass. Knocked everybody off the list, and we're good to go. So, with that being said, this is the end of the game. That was a good game. So, thank you all so much for watching and joining me on this journey. And until the next video, carry on.